Hi, I'm Adam Drake from Mugen Seiki Racing, and today I'm going to show you kind of the process that I go through when I'm getting ready to store a nitro engine. Here in California, the weather is usually really nice and we don't have to deal with humidity too much. But even when I lived back east, this is kind of the process that I used to use when storing an engine. So if you're going to run in a couple days or the following weekend, I don't always go through this process, but if I plan on having an engine sit for more than a week, this is kind of the process that I use to ensure that there's no corrosion and that you don't allow moisture into the engine. Okay, so I start by removing the engine from the vehicle, and then what I have here is basically a really thin assembly oil. Novarossi calls it special oil. And then Mugen also sells a very similar oil. It's just called engine maintenance oil. Both of these oils work really, really good if you ever have to take your engine apart or if you're changing any parts in the engine, just to oil and keep everything lubricated nicely. So what I have here is engine. I go ahead and remove the air filter, take and kind of with a paintbrush dust off any of the dust on the outside of the engine. I also use like a cleaning putty just to make sure everything's clean and nice before you put it into the box. I also like to go ahead and spray out my clutch bearings and re-oil them just to make sure everything is nice and smooth. That way, when it does come time to run this engine again, I don't have to do any maintenance. It's ready to pull out of the box, secure the filter back on, and go racing. So what I like to do is just remove the cap for the carburetor, and then I'll just take and put 2 to 3 drops of the special oil from Novarossi, and then I'll take the carburetor and just work it back and forth, make sure that the oil gets down into the engine, and then I'll just slightly kind of roll the crankshaft back and forth to make sure that it kind of works that oil around and lubricates the parts. And then in the exhaust port, I'll take and make sure that the piston is at bottom dead center. And then I just take and put 6 to 8 drops of the oil in, and again I'll just take and roll the flywheel and even turn the engine over a couple times just to make sure that the oil kind of gets worked around and lubricates all the parts within the engine. Go ahead and put the cap back on, and then I always like to go ahead and put a fresh flashpoint air filter on, and then I just take a clean paper towel and plug the end of it. That way when I'm ready to pull it out of the box, I go ahead and put a fresh zip tie on and it's ready to go. And then from there I go ahead, drop it back in the box that it came with, and I always like to take and write kind of on the outside of the box the events that I've used the engine at and things like that, just so that I can keep track of the amount of fuel that's been run through it and how the engine's been performing.